Hello, everybody, and welcome to an off-the-cuff episode of the FPL Wire. I mean, it was, I think, 30 minutes ago, Pras, that I texted you. I'm like, you know what? I'm thinking about what to do. There's various permutations and combinations going on in my head. You want to go on a live stream? I asked Baker, I asked Pras. Baker had some child issues at the moment, which is why he couldn't join us. But let's not delve into further details. But Pras, thank you so much for joining me on such short notice.
A pleasure. When you texted me, I was basically getting into the tube from work, so perfect timing. Just got home.
Nice. Now, obviously, the big news and why this is happening is Game Week 29 news is right here. And we already have this fabulous chart by Brent Krellin, which is literally all you need when you're thinking of what to do and thinking of like how you got to call it, the helicopter view. And that's what we're here to do, discuss what... We're not here to discuss what chip strategy you should take, but what I have in my head is we'll go through team by team, see what we're looking at, see what potential implications of diving into what strategy are, and maybe you and I go after this conversation better managers thinking about where we want to be after 25 and what chip strategy we want to do. So it's more a brainstorming session. I haven't even looked at all the fixtures yet, but I'm hoping that this conversation leads us to a better place after the chat.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we're very lucky, firstly, that we've got this news before the deadline, because now we've filled in a lot of the blanks in the future. Blanks, I don't mean the FPL blanks, but now we know a lot. We know everything in 29. Maybe Spurs can fit in there. Pretty much after 25, FA Cup, we'll know everything. I mean, even 34, 37, we'll be able to take a very good guess of what fits where. So actually, this season, we're blessed that we'll have the full picture by Game Week 26.
Yeah, I mean, any early thoughts in terms of what chip strategy you're looking at right now, or just quietly monitoring? Because they're very early days. I mean, you're literally just about processing what has happened. But any first instinct thought?
Yeah. So first instinct was Game Week 29. We always knew will be a big double, but now we know that Arsenal don't have a double. That was expected. City don't have a double. That was not expected. So now City not having a double in 29, that changes things slightly. And also Spurs, they could have, but I think at the moment we have to work with the base assumption that they don't. So the first thought that comes into my mind is that Game Week 29 feels like a week where you can get out your Arsenal 3, you can take out your other Man City, even Haaland, for example. And for this biggest double, you attack it with a free hit. That was the first thing that came to my mind. Whether that is eventually what I'll do or not is another thing. But, you look at Leicester. We'll come to team by team, obviously, like you said. Excellent games, but blank before. Then you look at Man United. You're going to sell your Shaws and your Brunos, and then they have a good double. So things like that, basically. That was my first thought.
Likely blank before. Let's make that clear, because you don't know cup sets, etc. could happen. But yeah, that was what my first thought was. But because it's too much information to process in a very short time, what we'll do is we'll go team by team, see where we are at, see what happens when we're thinking of wildcarding. First up, let's talk about Arsenal. So they've got Leicester, Everton in the double in 25. After that, they've got Bournemouth, Fulham, Crystal Palace. In 29, they have Leeds United at home. After which they have Liverpool, West Ham, and an unlikely blank game week as per Ben Krellin in 32. What are you thinking with Arsenal?
I mean, Arsenal were a long-term team to have anyway. And this 32 blank is only if Southampton reach the semi-final of the FA Cup, which is very unlikely. So I think we assume that Arsenal will continue to have games and they'll have a double. The big question with Arsenal is, what Arsenal do you hold? If you hold Martinelli, even to an extent, if you hold Nketiah or White, then you're in a slightly different position to people who have Gabriel, Saka, and Odegaard, for example. People like them, they are now not worried until game week 32. You just hold your 3, and then you try to think what you will do in game week 29. Because game week 29, the fixture against Leeds at home is still a great fixture. Question is, do you bench boost with them? Do you reduce them? Or you free hit them out is basically the point. But I think apart from that, you hold what you've got even Nketiah, I think, should be good for this double at a minimum, and then you see where you have to go.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm thinking about Game Week 29 now is that if somebody wants to bench boost with Arsenal assets in 29, I think it's a fine play. If somebody wants to free hit out of, or maybe with one asset, or let's face it, if you're free hitting, we're not keeping Arsenal in our team. But I don't see a problem free hitting out of 29 as well. And if somebody just wants to feel 11, people who might have used up chips and don't have many left, I think the way 29 has sort of presented itself, it's easy to maneuver to, but it might be difficult to optimize. But that optimization of 29 isn't even a guarantee, because people with poor fixtures could outscore your optimal picks in 29. So it's sort of an okay ground for everybody.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think you don't have to take them out. 29 free hit will be that free hit which can earn you negative points. Like you said, exactly. Haaland scores a hat trick against Liverpool. Saka scores a brace and you free hitted them all out. Game week 29 free hit, which is the other option people are thinking about. Sorry, 28 free hit is the easy free hit where you're just basically getting 4 extra players that other people don't have. You'll definitely end up with positive points on a free hit.
Yeah, 28. I feel like if you're looking at things, there's a very high likelihood that the amount of points you could lose in 28 are definitely not negative. And the amount of points that you can gain could, let's say if the amount of points that you can gain in 28 is 15, the potential amount of points that you can gain in 29 would probably be 30, 35, 40 even. But you could also lose points in 29. So that bell curve that we're looking at in terms of the wider range of possibilities, higher ceiling, but a slight chance of falling also in 29 if you free hit in 29. I think that's
Totally.
where we are.
And I think you made a great point. People without a free hit, actually, your strategy is also clear. Just hold your 3 Rs. In fact, if you have a Martinelli, just make that move. Keep your Odegaard till game week 32. If you have a Nketiah, don't be afraid after this double. Let's say if Jesus is coming back, change him to an Odegaard. Just get 3 Arsenal that you're comfortable to hold for the next 8 game weeks.
Correct. At this point, I just want to say, I mean, we've got 300 people watching live, and I'm sure some more will join in. If you're watching, we're trying to do off the cuff content. Make sure you're hitting the like button. And if you're on Twitter, spread the word, get the word out, get more people in here, because I think this was going to go on probably until the Liverpool game, just sort of brainstorming in similar fashion. Now, Villa up next. Villa is a very interesting team now, in my opinion. I think they have a poor double in 29 with Chelsea and Leicester away. But fixtures around seem really, really good. Everton away, which is a confirmed fixture in 25. In 26, they've got Palace at home. In 27, they've got West Ham away. Bournemouth at home, confirmed fixture in 28. 30, 31, 32, 33. NFO home, Newcastle home, Brentford away, Fulham home. So outside of 29, they're a team you could sit with and target. So if you're committed to free hitting in 29, I just think Villa are a good bet. And even if you're not free hitting in 29, Chelsea, Leicester, Villa are a good team. I think they're very, very... They're a good team and we should be paying attention to them right now, especially because of what happens after 29. NFO, Newcastle, Brentford, Fulham. I like them. What do you think?
I mean, so Fulham I'll remove because 33 will wildcard. So up to 32. So them and Everton have the 2 confirmed fixtures and the 2 blanks. So like you said, if you're looking to free hit not in a blank game week, which is not 32, not 28, then Villa's your team. Now, that doesn't mean you start a triple up and you have Bailey, Watkins and Mings or whoever.
Yes, think we lost you for a second, Pras.
Game week 27, you get him for the double. And if you're looking to free hit, then in 29, you get a Watkins for Tony.
We just lost you for a second. Can you repeat, Pras?
Sorry. So I think the idea would be that Aston Villa would be the team that because they don't blank in any of the weeks, you can maneuver around them. So let's say if you got a Tony in game week 27 for the double, then he blanks in 28 or likely blanks in 28. You go Tony to Watkins. Now you have a really nice striker who plays in 28 against Bournemouth. You don't have to free you could, like you said, if you free hit, it's even better. And then he plays Nottingham Forest coming out of your free hit as well. So if somebody's looking at a free hit, I think Villa, at least a double up could work, and you don't have to play them every week. You get them late, basically, after game week 27.
Yep. It's a tight market for strikers, though, especially with, like you mentioned, I mean, the team that caught my attention the most in 29 was Leicester's double. And they're a team we've all been wanting to jump on. And the reason we want, we've always, I was mentioning to Zoff on the pod previously, it's a team where I want to jump, but I can't because the fixtures don't justify it. Now the fixtures do justify it. So if Iheanacho is somebody in our consideration, we're already looking at Haaland, we're already looking at Nketiah, Tony possibly. The Darwin is potentially going to come into our teams. He's fit and he's playing right now in 45 minutes against Madrid. So the striker spots are scarce, but yeah, Watkins is in consideration.
I mean, if you look at 29 free hit, so I'm going to talk about 29 free hit a lot because that's the first thing that has come to my mind, and it's obviously new.
It's a freestyle brainstorming session.
Yeah.
Talk about whatever you want.
There are not a lot of strikers. You won't have Haaland. You won't have Kane. Darwin has a tough double. So this is the other thing about Game Week 29. When we talk about Liverpool, they have a very tough double, away to Man City, away to Chelsea. So even say what you want about Chelsea, I mean, they don't give away a lot of goals. It's not a 3-0 game. So you don't. So Darwin, you can argue, especially if reduced X minutes, maybe he's not an option.
Yeah.
Nketiah is not an option. Jesus is not an option. Man United don't have a striker that you can pick.
Felix is nailed in your free hit team.
Felix could be an option. So Chelsea's double, Aston Villa and Liverpool home, good double. So that's when you sort of think about that 29 could really help change the whole structure of the team. And you then go against people who are sitting on Nketiah or a Haaland or a Kane, who've kept them, or a Tony.
And it's not like Kane has a tough fixture. He's got Everton away. That's an easy fixture for Kane. And he likes to play against them traditionally, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Who does Haaland have? Liverpool at home. Liverpool haven't been great defensively. Yeah.
It's a risky free hit for sure.
It's a risky free hit for sure. Cool. I mean, we leave that thought there. Villa are a team you need to be paying attention to right now. Bournemouth. It's just one thing that jumped out at me is I like the look of the double in 29 from an attacking perspective. Fulham at home and Brighton home. Yes, Fulham have been defensively better now, but 2 home fixtures could be a cheap enabling punt in there. That's about it. The fixtures around it are not very convincing. Anything else to add on Bournemouth?
No, nothing else to add. I think similar thoughts. They're like Villa, but not as good as Villa. So maybe you consider, actually, the double is opposite to Villa. So you could consider them on a free hit, but around it, you'd rather go for Villa assets than Bournemouth assets.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, Brentford is an interesting team. And I think this is a team very interesting for people looking to wildcard immediately after 25. If somebody is looking at a wildcard 26 or a wildcard 27, Brentford's going to be in your thinking. Now, I don't mind the double in 27 for Brentford at all. They have a likely blank in 28. And the double in 29 isn't that great. Brighton away and United away. But if we've seen the stats, Ivan Toney typically tends to do better against the good teams compared to the middling or poor opposition. So, if somebody's wildcarding early, Ivan Toney's sort of a no-brainer in 27. Yellow card dependent. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, the 7 yellow cards or 8 yellow cards is an issue. Now, Brentford is the team that makes me slightly skeptical of bench boost in 20. So this, right now, let's be clear. A lot of people will think my whole chip strategy depends on Liverpool and Fulham happening in 28. If that doesn't happen, I'm basically going to free hit in 28 and bench boost potentially in 29. Wildcard 27, free hit 28, bench boost 29. I don't like that as much because of this Brentford double, because you're going to attack Brentford. Will you be bench boosting? I mean, maybe you go for a Tony, but then you go for a Raya. I didn't love it. And then especially if you're also then going to bench boost with 3 single game weekers, even if it's Arsenal or Haaland, it wasn't as ideal compared to, let's say, 34. Basically, the 4 teams this season that are a gift because they're cheap and good is Man United, Arsenal, Newcastle and Brighton. You agree?
Yeah.
Those all 4 teams have a double in 34, a nice double in 34. So for me, as people think about bench boost, and I know I'm bringing bench boost in the discussion of Brentford, but for me, that basically jumps out as the week to bench boost, even if you wildcard early.
Yeah.
So that was the thinking. So Brentford, you could go for it if you wildcard, but I wouldn't commit to them too much because there are other good options after.
Yeah, but just again, while we're brainstorming, and it's important to debate each other's points here, because I think that leads to better discussion for everybody here. Let's say you go 2 or 3 Brentford in 27, and then if you're wildcarding in 27, it's very likely, depending on the cup results, that you're free hitting in 28 and then bench boosting in 29. I think Raya and Tony is fine. I think those are 2 fine picks. And then there's always the third Brentford that you can switch, because you will have free transfers you'll have one free transfer from 27 to 29 and you're open to taking a hit. So that switch is still possible in terms of bench boosting, so it's still
Okay.
open. I don't mind it. It's just talking about
Yeah,
the pros.
it's just basically a big con for bench boost. Is not only do you have 3 weeks, you'll have one transfer, and you'll be a little bit compromising with. Fine, I think Raya is good for save points. Tony is good
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
against. But then you're also having single game weekers, and then when we come to other teams, I'll
Yeah.
make a similar point, and I'm just basically saying, if you can hold it, bench boost 34 is very, very good.
All right. Cool. Brighton. I think Brighton are the team to target. If somebody's going big in 27 and 29, if somebody's looking at wildcarding in 26 and 27, or their team is looking poor, I think Brentford are presenting you the opportunity to attack 26, 27, and 29. The problem with Brighton is that the fixtures after 29 aren't that great. Spurs away, Chelsea away, likely blank in 32. So that's the problem with Brighton. But I think it's a problem to solve after 29. And I also think the thing with Brighton that I like about there's also a chance of another double happening, right? Pras, if I'm not mistaken, for Brighton. When is that expected? Any idea?
Yeah, so the only fixture that is left after this is the Newcastle game.
Okay.
Now, the Newcastle game could fit in game week 32, which means that even if Brighton don't play Man City, they could play Newcastle in game week 32. But for that to happen, Man City and Spurs both need to reach the FA Cup final, and Brighton don't have to reach. So this is obviously a little bit convoluted, but there is a chance that Brighton actually don't have a blank in 32, even though Man City reached the FA Cup semi-final. If this doesn't happen, then they will have another double at some point, and that will include Newcastle.
Yeah. And I just don't think Brighton are too much of a problem, because Brighton attackers, it's like Leeds of Bielsa. I don't mind fielding them against any opposition. So
sure.
and they don't cost money. I mean, there are 4 players. There's a 4-player pool that you're looking at essentially right now: McAllister, March, Mitoma, and Estupinan, and Sanchez, if you're dabbling into keepers. And none of them are difficult to carry forward because of how much money they cost. So they're just not a problem. I think you wildcard in 26, go with 3 ultimate or optimal Brighton assets, and I think they are the team that will allow you to gain a massive advantage, or they are the team you're banking on if you're going early on the wildcard.
Yeah. I mean, and they're bench boostable as well, cheap and good. The problem with Brighton will only be your midfield opportunity cost. So the problem in game week 27, as you and I were chatting as well, game week 27, fitting in 2 Brighton midfielders is going to be very hard.
Yeah.
Because Rashford has a good fixture, Odegaard, Saka has a good fixture, Salah has a good fixture. So who are you dropping?
I think we're just entering that stage of FPL. I mean, you, Hibo, and I were having a chat the other day. There's just a flurry of difficult decisions, and you're just going to have to make your choices in the next few weeks. And I think it's good for the game. We'll see a little bit of variance in terms of chip strategy, in terms of players that people own. Because I think what 29 has done is sort of taken away us looking at the same players or the same small pool of players. So I just think it makes the game more interesting. And
Absolutely.
I think if you're wildcarding in 26 or 27, there are a few compromises you're going to make anyway, looking at 29, looking at 27, etc. as well. So I think the early wildcard opportunity is bright. That's the thing I'm looking at.
Agreed. And you can even go, like you said, even you can go on 26. The only thing is you won't be able to get too many Newcastle, or you'll have to bench them because they play City. But apart from that, 26 is actually also fine. So you basically land up after 25 and you see that Liverpool are not having a game with Fulham. And so 28 looks really ugly. Well, you could go 26 and just wildcard.
Yep. Another thing that jumped out to me is that in game week 34, and because people are using the wildcard early if they're going Brighton, is that Brighton have a likely double in 34 as well. So you're quite secure late until double game week season with Brighton. I think you'll stick with the 3 you go with on your early wildcard if you do so.
Yep.
Chelsea, another interesting team. Confirmed game in blank 25. Confirmed game. Good fixture against Everton at home in blank 28. A very good looking double, especially for attackers if you ask me in 29. Villa at home and Liverpool at home. 2 teams that concede a considerable amount of XG. I think if you want to jump in on Chelsea attackers, despite their poor form, whatever you might say, the fixtures are there. Thoughts on Chelsea?
I think they're a good solid team. I mean, they're like a mini Arsenal, except that their chances of getting a double in 32, a blank in 32 are actually pretty high, because as we know, Man United will reach the semi-final. So, they will then blank. But other than that, I think they carry you. So again, non-free hitters, people without the free hit, you just get on Chelsea, get Felix next week. Outside of obviously the concerns that, Potter might lose his job and they're not scoring enough goals.
Yeah.
But, I think that team will click and Felix is looking good anyway.
Yeah. I think if you're free hitting in 29 also, then Chelsea are a team you're looking at right now. And if you're investing heavy in Chelsea right now, you're sort of reducing the odds of you free hitting in 28. That's also what's happened from a strategic point of view.
Correct. So you can actually think, let's say people don't have funds for Darwin, right? And they want to sort of hedge their bets. So you could go for a Watkins or a Felix and basically say, that basically leaves me with another player in game week 28. It gives me a doubler in 29. I can just assess my options after. Of course, you miss out on a third player of Liverpool in game week 25, but it basically completely opens up all options for where you want to go after 26.
Correct. Right. You were considering the Kepa to Pickford transfer, if I'm not mistaken, this week. Has this news made you pause a little?
So I've actually ditched the idea because I think they both have a game in 28. They will probably so the idea was that Pickford will have a game in 32 confirmed, but Kepa does not have a game in 32 confirmed. But then Ward has a game, and Ward's game is actually pretty easy, which is Bournemouth at home. Wolves at home in 32. So I've ditched the idea, and I think for my team, I will, we can talk about it later, but I think getting an Everton does make sense. So I might have to upgrade Patterson to Tarkowski, for example, for a hit, because it might be worth it to get that additional player.
Yeah. Just while you mentioned Ward, that's another reason which sort of strengthens the bench boost 29 argument, because he's pretty much everybody's second keeper. And Leicester have one of the best looking doubles in 29 with Palace away and Villa at home. So that's just one of the factors in favor of bench boost 29 if you're looking at.
Yeah, fair. I mean, Zoff, I was chatting with Zoff an hour ago, and he had this idea that you can actually bench boost without wildcarding.
Yeah.
Because the team will look good in game week 29. Another strategy, which actually not a lot of people have talked about, is you just dead end into you bench boost in 29, dead end into 31 or 32, and then you wildcard in 33. But then my problem is if you're wildcarding in 33, might as well bench boost also in 34, because 34 is going to be a big double too.
Yeah. And I just think from a very macro point of view, this season is one where I don't really worry about having to carry a bench, because there's an insane amount of cheap enablers in the game and we don't really need that much money in the game anyway. So it's one of those seasons where, where we're always thinking about, okay, then you don't have to carry forward and you can go bottom down on one or two positions. There's just too many good value picks in the game to worry about value and about leaving money on the bench this year. So I think that's
I agree. Yeah. So therefore, people who are looking at this early 26, 27 wildcard, I mean, on the face of it, this is why I'm urging people that just carry your Mitomas and your McAllisters or whoever and just think about bench boosting in 34, where actually you might end up with 15 doublers instead of hoping for other players. But I don't mind. There's no one way. But I just feel there is an opportunity to carry these players. It's not a problem. I mean, we're not stretched for funds whatsoever.
Yeah. We will get a clearer picture of 32 after the gap between 25 and 26. When do you think we get an idea of how 34 is going to shape up?
So whatever blanks are now left will go into 34 and 37. And we will know the big blanks, because now the most blanks will come in 28. Obviously, these are unconfirmed. We will know the exact picture of 28. So all these games, the 5 games, we will know that they're going into either 34 or 37. And we'll be able to make a good guess about 32 as well, because we'll know the FA Cup quarterfinal round. So let's say Man United draw against Tottenham, then we know one of Man United or Tottenham will actually now not blank in 32. So we will know a lot about we'll know 100% about 28. We will know a lot about 32, and therefore we can guess better about 34 and 37. Usually what the league does is they will try to fit in most of it in 34, because you don't want to leave games for 37. What if there's another postponement for whatever reason? And then now you're stuck and you have to extend the season. So a lot of it will move to 34 and then some will go to 37.
Yeah, people have been mentioning the weather in a couple of weeks as well. Something that's going on in the background, but I don't think it's going to be too much of a worry. Palace, not very FPL relevant. I mean, they have a double in 27, but outside of that, fixtures don't look that great. FPL assets don't look that great. Anything to talk about or add there?
I mean, if Zaha was an option and he had a good run with better fixtures, actually they're a team that have a game in 25, have a game in 28, and have a double. Nobody
Yeah.
else has that. But
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going there.
If you're free hitting in 29, just generally the run from 29 to 31 for Palace isn't bad. Leicester home, Leeds away, Southampton away. And 32 Everton at home also. So they do have a nice run of fixtures. It's not like it's a poor run of fixtures, but there's just no assets at the moment.
Correct.
Everton, you're thinking of Taco at the moment. What implications do they have on chip strategy?
Just a confirmed game. So basically, if you're looking, my base case strategy, at least after today, of course, subject to change, is wildcard 33 and free hit 29 and bench boost 34. So basically, if I'm looking to wildcard in 33, then I need a player that can get me points in 25, 28, 32. And Everton fit that bill. They have a double in 25, they have a game in 28, a tough game in 28, but then a good game in 32. And then it's Sean Dyche, man. I mean, you're just basically getting a ticket to Sean Dyche's lottery of defensive points and, Burnley a fold, comfort blanket.
It was a insane stat that Baker shared with me, if I'm not mistaken, and it was like a very high percentage of, in a small sample size, a very high percentage of Everton / Burnley's XG generated in the post Dyche era has come from set pieces, and that's just Taco. I mean, even if you're watching the game, he's getting his head at the end of a set piece so many times. So he's just a ridiculous pick at 4.3 at that price point. But I do think that if you're getting Taco and if you're getting another additional player, you're sort of looking at using some sort of other chip in 29 because the fixture in 29 is Spurs at home, which isn't the best fixture. And you don't like leaving a few spots open. You're trying to optimize that. So that's the problem. You're probably going to either wildcard or free hit in 29 if you're doing that.
Correct. And wildcard in 29 is problematic because you are not sure how much to load up on Arsenal and Man City, which are the two teams who will probably, be players you want to own.
Yeah, that's a good shot. But if you own a couple of value picks, if you're holding like an Odegaard or somebody like that, it's
fine.
easy enough to bench them in 29. But you really want to optimize. But while we're going through the teams, not many teams except for Chelsea and maybe Brighton, no one has jumped out in terms of, oh, that's an outstanding double in 29. But let's see when we go further down the road. Fulham, Bournemouth away in 29, single fixture confirmed. And one of the teams that play in 29, and we don't know what the result in 28 is going to be. I think the most watched FA Cup game is going to be that tie between Fulham and Leeds amongst FPL players for sure, because that's just going to dictate so much.
I mean, the problem is even if Fulham have a game with Liverpool in 28, I'm not sure many people will have Fulham players. Because people will get rid of Mitro now, and then people will get rid of Andreas for Mitoma or McAllister.
Yep, you're right.
I think the journey with Fulham has ended. It's been a nice journey. We've owned a couple of their assets for a lot of the season, but there's nothing here that appeals to me, neither in terms of their doubles or blanks, or it's just basically a little bit of meh. I mean, I'm not going to own Mitro now going forward. There's other good strikers, and Andreas has done a good job until now, but there's other people like Mitoma or Bailey, even if somebody wanted to go for a similar-ish price, that'll do a better job.
Yeah. Leeds, interesting. Just looking at their fixtures now, there's a flurry of decent-looking home fixtures. So between 25 and 32, they've got Southampton at home, Brighton at home, Forest, Palace, and Liverpool at home. And then in 33, they have Leicester at home. It's a good flurry of home fixtures. And then they've got a double in 29, which is it's Arsenal away and Forest at home. Thoughts on Leeds? I think if you're wildcarding in 26, if you're going early, they're like, if you want to go for an enabler like Nonto, or if you want to jump on Bamford because of the lack of strikers, not a bad shout.
Not at all. And especially, again, they are the anti-Liverpool, right? Because if Liverpool don't have a game, then they will have a game. So Leeds will happen. So if we're in a scenario where Liverpool are blanking in 28 and people still want to navigate through 28 without a chip, then you go for a Leeds player because he will then have a game confirmed and they don't have a great double, but then they play Crystal Palace right after. So, I mean, it's a decent enabler that you can look at.
Yeah. I mean, but you think they screwed up by sacking Marsh? Just premature ejaculation, if you want to call it that. But it was there to take, and they didn't have a replacement in place. I mean, just why do that? It was a good thing. Everybody who was watching Leeds knew that they were playing good football. They were in a good place. I was expecting them. Let's just say in my head, the odds of them getting relegated have increased after sacking Marsh. But what do you think?
I completely agree. I don't think the fact that they didn't have a plan is the most worrying part. I mean,
Yeah.
you basically help spend the whole winter. You get these guys. I mean, they could have been longer term targets as well, but you're getting players that are marsh players, and then you sack the guy, and then you don't have an able replacement. I mean, it would have been another thing if they say, okay, we've got Pochettino or we've got Bielsa back, and these guys will all work for them. But yeah, it doesn't look great.
Yep. Right, Leicester, the team I think with one of the best looking fixtures in Gameweek 29, where they have a double against Palace away and Villa at home. And all of us were looking for reasons to own some of their attackers. The reason is presented itself now, because they've got Arsenal at home in 25, which is a game that they're playing. Then they've got Southampton away, Chelsea at home. All right fixtures, but the fixtures after the double aren't too bad. And I feel like they're in the phase of play. Even against us, they created so much in the first half where they will create chances irrespective of the opposition. I just that front four is very well balanced. I don't think even Broch can screw it up. So yeah. And a lot of like Zoff were in the market where the only midfield that they could potentially look at was Gapco, because there's no other midfield that you could think of buying. Now, because of how the double in 29 has emerged,
Correct.
you can even buy enabling Leicester assets now. That's where we are, I think.
I think so. But I mean, after Leeds Fulham, the second most important FA Cup game is basically Leicester Blackburn. Because if Leicester lose somehow to Blackburn, if that happens, then that becomes very interesting, because they'll become a team that have a game in 28 and a nice double in 29.
Yeah.
So, free hitters will get completely bailed out if that happens in that scenario. For example, you load up on, you get Inacho, you get Madison, you're covered for 28, you're covered for 29. But, it may not. And therefore, Leicester become a good team that you can target on a free hit potentially in 29.
Yeah, 29-30 is just great. I mean, Palace away, Villa home, Bournemouth home. There's 3 good fixtures. I think we'll want Leicester in that. Sure. Like, even if you're free hitting in 29, you want Leicester assets in 30 also.
Possibly.
Another thought there. But yeah.
And they'll have a game in 32 because, Wolves are not going to make it to the semi-final, so they will have a game.
Yes, so very likely game in 32. Like Ben says, unlikely.
Or they themselves are not going to make it to the semi-final. We don't think. I mean, it's possible, but unlikely.
Yes. City. Well, how do you think they're chip relevant now?
Well, again, very chip dependent.
Wait. I completely missed Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Yeah. Go on.
Liverpool. I think it's a tricky one. The gut, and this is what you're going to say, is attack 25 and deal with it. My gut instinct when I saw this is basically they have a terrible double in 29. They may not have a game in 28. If I overcommit on Liverpool, then I'm almost committing to wildcarding in game week 26, 27, which for me is slightly less optimal than wildcarding in 33. So my immediate first thought was maybe I shouldn't go for 3 Liverpool. Maybe I should hedge and maybe just go for 2 plus a Tarkowski. And so that covers me for my optimum strategy. But I know exactly what you're going to say, so say it.
No, that's fine. I mean, yeah, because the upside is there in 25. One of the things that's in my thoughts is Liverpool's trajectory is upward looking because of Van Dijk coming back in the squad, because of Jota and Firmino coming back in the squad, because of Gapco finding a bit of form. It's just that the players that they had at their disposal a month ago compared to the players that they will have at their disposal in a week or two, and there's a massive difference where you have 4 or 5 first teamers as a part of the squad now. And it's just that trajectory is upward. Confidence does good things to teams, and they're a good team. So, yeah, that's where I am. I think if you commit, right, to Liverpool, if you're holding on to their attackers in 29, it's fine. I think it's sort of, if you're looking at like forward-looking chip strategy, a lot of people were looking at doubling up on Liverpool defenders instead of attackers. I think if you're committing, the way 29 has shaped up is you commit more to their attack than to their defense based on whatever you do in the future. Like if you even hold a Salah Darwin against City and Chelsea away, it's fine because it's Liverpool and they know how to attack. So it's better than having Robbo or Trent against 2 teams in which you're not expecting clean sheets.
I would agree. Absolutely. I mean, this definitely shifts the thinking, except just for the minutes argument. I mean, if you say that Darwin's minutes are secure even if all these guys are back, then fair. But people could argue that Robertson, Trent, and Salah basically are the 3 nailed guys in the team, and it's hard to predict anyone else.
Yeah. Also, just laying down the lay of the land post 29. The post 29 world for Liverpool looks pretty good. I mean, Arsenal at home, Leeds away, and a confirmed fixture against Forest at home. in 32. So, you have a pretty decent follow-up after also. So I don't think it's as bad as you think it is, especially if you're considering that free hit in 29.
Correct. So this is the thinking that I want to get Salah and Trent now. So let's come to the Darwin conversation after.
Yeah.
Salah and Trent for me are perfect because for me, you get them for the double. They will play Nottingham Forest in game week 32, which is amazing, as good as it gets. And then between that, it's nice. And so if I look to, even if they blank in game week 28, I can work around it. I can work around Salah and Trent, and I can actually end up keeping them if I free hit in game week 29. So I'm not overcommitted. So I think it's a nice hold if you're looking to dead end into game week 32.
Yeah.
But you're then thinking if you're going to end up wildcarding in 26, you think I should have gone for a third Liverpool. I've missed out on Darwin's points. So perfectly get the other argument. So you tell me, Darwin's starting today.
Yeah.
That means more minutes, obviously, that he's fit. But, Jota is back. Let's see how he does today. I don't even know whose place is nailed apart from Salah.
How I play FPL. It's a very difficult world in which I don't see myself having Darwin. I'll just honestly admit. He's got, because of the numbers that he generates and because of what you see when you're watching Liverpool, he's got a very high ceiling for me to ignore him in 29, especially given Mitrovic's slightly dicey expected minutes now, or the injury that I was looking for an excuse to make the move. And it could even be that in the next couple of hours after the game, I make that switch because Mitro is expected to fall, and I'll just do it. I'll just do it. That's it.
Fair.
Yeah.
I think if anyone is free hitting this week, there's no doubt that you get. I think the three picks are Trent, Darwin, and Salah. You could argue Gakpo, depending on how he does today as well, is a decent pick, but again, X minutes risk. Yeah. But basically, my issue is going forward because in 27 you want two more Brighton. So let's say you have Darwin and Salah, then you want two Brighton, that's 4. You want Rashford. You have 2 attackers from Arsenal, that's 7. And you have Haaland, that's 8. You cannot have 8.
Yeah.
So who are you dropping out of them?
In my head right now, Necktie for Tony and Mahrez for Mitoma and Andreas for March or McAllister. That's what's going on in my head right now.
That's 8. So you'll still need to drop Nunes.
Yeah, I'll need to bench a player in 20s. Yeah, 27 is an issue. Yeah, but it's a good problem to have, right? It's what managers like, having a good squad and then deciding who to bench. It's a good problem to have. It's not a bad problem to have. It is a problem and you don't feel good about it. But objectively speaking, you're picking 11 from 13 good players. It's a good problem to have,
Absolutely. I think so. So this is where I am. I think I'm at 2.5 Liverpool instead of 3. Coming out of this news. I think before this news, I was thinking of the same thing, just attack 25 and then deal with it after. But now we have more information that 29 is rubbish. Not for Darwin, but I think for Liverpool in general. Do I want 3 Liverpool going into 28 and 29, where 28 is a risk and 29 is a bad double? That's basically where I'm coming from.
Yeah, fair. And I buy that side of the argument. I do. So my thing is different, where I'll prioritize a Darwin over a Trent or a Robbo. And I can't get to Trent no matter what I do anyway. So do I commit to the defender transfer now is where my thought is in terms of overcommitting. You're going with Trent, I'm going with Darwin is where we are. I mean, opinions could change. I might actually, this is making me think where I can just get Trent. Because if I can get Trent, I don't need to get Darwin. As in, the only reason I can't get Trent is because I'm getting Darwin. So I could make the same choice as you. We have very similar teams also. But I just don't see a world in which I don't have Darwin. But I am. Yeah. But the fixtures in 25 are decent for defenses. If you're wanting to punt on, get 2 fixtures, Palace away, Wolves home are good fixtures for clean sheet probability. So that's also there.
Correct, but I don't like, I get the Robertson Trent picks, but I don't get the Alisson pick as much. I mean, you're benching Kepa, who could do decent. I know he's got Spurs or somebody else. I mean, at that point, I would say just get Pickford. I mean, why would you bother with Alisson? Just get Pickford.
I agree. Cool. City. City have Bournemouth, Newcastle. No, you're right here. I heard you.
Okay.
I heard you. I agreed, and I don't have much to add there. City, good hold throughout. Just a fixture against Liverpool in 29, which again, I think if you're bench boosting with your Haalands playing Liverpool at home, Nothing wrong with it because Liverpool is just a good fixture for your attackers, irrespective. But there's a good reason to free hit out of them in 29 as well.
Absolutely. I think anyway, I mean, when we're saying City now, pretty much everyone is going to be down to just Haaland in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So we're talking, are you going to bench Haaland through this period, or are you going to sell him or hold him? And I think there could be people who look to sell Haaland leading into 28, because what they'll say is he's not got a game in 28. He's very likely not got a game in 32. And in 29, I might free hit and then get him on the field. Or actually, you won't get him on the field.
And you're not going to captain him in 29 either.
Exactly. Problem is 30 and 31, Man City play Southampton and Leicester.
Yeah, and 29. Like if I'm free hitting in 29, Liverpool at home is a prime fixture for an attacker. I'm going to be shitting my pants bench free hitting out of Haaland, if I'm being honest. I might just keep him, you never know, because it's a prime fixture. Liverpool at home is good for attackers from a team like City. It's hat-trick potential game. So, and that game traditionally has given us goals as well. So, yeah. I suspect if we free hit in 29, we potentially could just throw or keep Haaland in there out of all the singlers.
I mean, value is not going to be a problem in free hit 29. There's no Salah, there's no Haaland, there's no Kane, at least at the moment. Like if Kane gets a double, then I think it's a no-brainer. You'll go Kane instead of Haaland.
Yeah. Now, United, another important conversation because their double in 29 looks good to me and their fixtures after look good to me as well. So in 29, they've got Newcastle away, Brentford at home. And after that, they've got Everton at home and Forest away in 30 and 31. So for Robbo, I have a decision to sell either Shaw or Trippier. And I was likely going to sell Shaw. Still not comfortable selling Trippier, but those fixtures between 29 and 31 gives me pause.
Look, United are going to be difficult because it's Trippier he's competing against. And Trippier has a game in 28.
Yeah.
And 27, they both have an equally good game. And 26, they both have a bad game.
Yeah.
So it's actually very similar, except that Trippier has a game in 28 and Shaw doesn't.
Yeah.
And if you're free hitting in 29, then you get Shaw back anyway.
Yeah, I know.
But you won't have him in 30 and 31.
Yeah, because you want 3 United for this double in 29. Like, what's setting up a free hit is getting 3 from United, 3 from maybe Chelsea or 2 from Chelsea. Good players from Brighton. Leicester. And Leicester. I think that's going to be the chunk of a free hit 29, just talking through it. If you're looking at free hitting 29.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so Man United, for me, it's a difficult sell, but there is no fixture in which I will play him over Trippier if free hitting in 29. See, I mean, let's debate it. I mean, Man United and Newcastle at home in 26.
No, I agree with you. It just gives you, even if you're committing to Liverpool and you're trying to not free hit in 28, let's say, if you're free hitting in 28, ignore the conversation we're going to have in the next 3 minutes. But if you're not looking to, you just have to play the odds where you're getting a confirmed fixture in 28, given that the fixtures around them and the defensive capability of the players are slightly similar. There's also the thing in my head that I lose 0.2 or 0.3 million on Shaw, but I lose 0.6 million on Trippier. That's also a factor. Yeah. So, all these factors, and like we mentioned right at the top of the stream, tough decisions to make, and it is what it is.
And the other thing is, you will have to get Trippier. You don't have to get Shaw. I mean, you could go Dalot, for example. If he, I know Wan-Bissaka's there and maybe feelings change as things develop, but I feel like we're overworking Shaw. Like, there will be a point where he might miss a game or something. So it's not like between him and Dalot is like completely, it has to be Shaw. Whereas between Trippier and any other defender, it has to be Trippier. You have to buy him back.
Yeah, you're right. But I still think Shaw is going to remain our best pick in defense.
Yeah. It's the gap between Shaw and the next best.
Yeah, correct. Because, I mean, just while we're talking about it, when he's playing CB, he's a bonus points monster. And when he's playing wing back, attacking threat is always there. On top of that, set pieces are there until Eriksen comes back, which is not going to be until 35, 36. So that's where we are. Cool.
Bruno, I mean, just finishing on Man United, Bruno, fantastic pick for Game Week 29. Both look like Bruno games. I mean, Newcastle away is tough, fine, but I mean, we'll give them a game. And then Brentford at home. We have to extract revenge for the 4-0. So, I mean, the guy looks fantastic. Since Weghorst has moved to the number 10 position, Bruno's moved to the right. I mean, he's gone mad with creating chances. So,
looks great. And I mean, United is one of those teams which enables a very strong case for wildcard 27, free hit 28, bench booster 29. Like 3 strong players from 3 strong teams that you're happy to carry forward until 34 because they're looking to double in 34. United is a good team to, feel good about and not worry about because you're backing 3 good players there.
Correct. But then 32 will be a blank for them, or could be a blank.
Yeah.
So if they draw like Man City in the FA Cup,
Yeah.
then you can take a punt. This is where the nuances change after the FA Cup. But I think yes, they could be a big. If you're big on the wild card, free hit 28 bench boost strategy, then absolutely you'll need to have 2 Man United, or
3.
even 3.
I think you go 3 because Newcastle, Brentford, right? And
Right.
and the follow-up games are fine before you sell one in 32 for the blank, if they have a blank at 32.
Correct.
Yeah. Newcastle, pretty much the same story as United, except they have a confirmed game in 28.
Confirmed game in 28, and they could eventually have a game in 32 as well. I mean, between Man United and Tottenham, absent anything else, I think the odds of Man United reaching the semi-final are slightly higher than Tottenham doing it. And then I also talked about this small thing that even if Tottenham reached and Man City reached, then Newcastle could still have a game in 32. So basically, it just makes me think that Trippier you just keep if you're thinking around, if you want to basically hedge your bets.
Yeah, and Gimenez is back. So I think that one of the reasons why the clean sheets didn't happen is because the balance he adds to the team, and he's done with the suspension. So he's going to be back, which is a big factor in
Correct.
Newcastle's favor as well.
And Pope
Forest
isn't missing any league games, right?
Yeah,
Sorry.
nope, just the cup.
Right.
Yeah. Forest under the radar, a team we should pay attention to right now. Confirmed game against West Ham in 25. If somebody's looking to buy a player now and not looking to use chips in the near future, Forest are a decent team to bet on right now. West Ham away in 25, Everton at home in 26, Spurs away in 27, confirmed game against Newcastle in 28, decent looking double in 29, Wolves at home and Leeds away, followed by Villa. Yeah, I mean, if you want to punt on a Brennan Johnson or a Morgan Gibbs-White, I won't put anybody off something like that right now because they're a good enabling team. And especially for people who've already used up a lot of their chips right now. They enable a fair amount. And a good double in 29. I don't know much about their other assets because their team. I mean, whenever I'm watching Match of the Day, I'm always looking or rewinding 2 or 3 times to try to memorize and get familiar with who Forrest is playing at the back. But I think the only FPL picks there are 2 at the moment, Johnson and Gibbs-White. So you don't look elsewhere.
Or their goalkeeper. But yeah, we're not going there. I think it's unlikely.
Yep. All right. Southampton, not much interest right now. Do you have anything that? Because a decent double in 27 just because of the Brentford home fixture, but haven't seen anything from them to make it worth talking about them.
They're still in the FA Cup. Could blank in 28 or likely to blank. Could very likely blank. Actually, they will not have a blank in 32, but there's no appeal. I mean, if there's a new manager bounce and things change, then Ward-Prowse is again talked about. But yeah, I don't think so.
Spurs, Harry Kane fire sale incoming, you think, after the news that they don't have a double in 29?
I think so. I think that it just basically pushes the people who are thinking about it to basically say, look, I'm going to do it because anyway, I'm leaving my chip strategy open, but still, I think I need to get... See, people can get Kane from Kane to Salah. Like they can hold Kane and get Salah, but they can't hold Kane and get Salah and Darwin or Salah and Trent.
Yeah.
And I think the movement will be to get at least 2, if not 3 of these guys. So I'm pretty sure there'll be a fire sale of Kane.
Yeah. But that said, the thing with Spurs is that the Bentancur injury is pretty big, in my opinion. And Spurs just haven't looked that great. Like I was talking to Zoff, he was worried about not having Kane 26 onwards because if you're looking at the fixtures as fixtures standalone, Wolves away, Forest at home, Everton away, Brighton at home, Bournemouth at home. That's a spectacular run of single fixtures. But there are doubles in play here. Somebody holds on, I don't think they will do well. It's a decent enough differential to have in the game, actually. I wouldn't fully talk somebody off if somebody doesn't believe in the Liverpool hype. Yeah.
I mean, if they lose the FA Cup game and they end up getting the Southampton away fixture, then for me, like, if you're considering free hit 29, you just get on Kane straight away. Basically, everyone sold him. You get him back because he's got all these fixtures that you've talked about and he doesn't have the double and then you free hit on that double.
Thing is, Spurs' form. That's the thing. But if Son gets singing after that goal, his cameo was promising in the previous game. You never know what happens.
I mean, these guys were talking about on Above Average FPL that when Richarlison played, Kane was like even deeper than what he usually is, and Richarlison isn't the same player's son, so they were almost lost in terms of shape. So, but I think we all expect that Son will come back. But Richarlison is not that kind of player that just is going to sit on the bench forever.
Yep. 29. Jared Bowen looks like a midfield punt in 29. Southampton at home and Newcastle at home, but West Ham need to change a lot before we come around to 29. That's where we are with West Ham. I don't think there's much else.
I mean, it looks worrying. I mean, it's the same team. I mean, essentially the same team, just 1 year older, same manager, but such a different season. So yeah, I think they could even have a manager change before that double. So, but apart from that, Bowen or nobody else.
Emerson as an enabler, 4 million defender. You know, if you're looking somebody to carry through and bench boost in 29, that's a name people might look at when they come around to 29, just as an enabler. Yeah. Just something I read on the Scout is that they've created enough chances. It's just that their delta negative on their XG, they've not been finishing. It was at minus 10 or something, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just that they haven't taken their chances. Right. Worrying times, and that needs to change quick enough.
Right.
Wolves. What do you think about Wolves?
I have no Wolves. I have no Bueno problem. But look, I think the problem is their double in 25 is difficult. And you don't know if they will have a game in 28 or not. So to buy any Wolves, I think absolutely not right now. But if they do end up having a game in 28, then you could think about it. But I don't know, they play Spurs, they play Newcastle, they play Chelsea around these games. I mean, there's NFO in 29.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you're sort of jumping on as a team.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're committing to Wolves, there's nobody you're going to buy after 25 irrespective. So just not an important team to talk about.
I mean, would you play Bueno? You have him, right?
Yes. I have the dilemma about if I make the moves I do, about playing either him or Andreas. And right now I'm leaning towards the guy with the 2 fixtures. Baker's leaning towards Andreas at the moment. And that's where the dilemma is. So yeah.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah. Cool. I'll think about it. I haven't thought about it much. I haven't paid so much attention to Wolves also. And I like how there's just 5 minutes left of the Liverpool game and we've timed this to perfection. And it's what I wanted to do because I think this is a part of the process where you and I and people who've been playing this game for a long time are deciding chip strategy, because I've seen a lot of people look at this, get overwhelmed, get confused in terms of the flurry of information that's coming. And what's happening is people will flock to Twitter to get news, to see what people are thinking, to see what chip strategy managers like you are adopting. And I feel like that shouldn't be a process. The process is essentially what we just did right now. Talk through team by team, look at team by team, look at the potential chip strategies that you're considering that suit your team, and then arrive at a plan. It's simply, you don't need to do much else except stare at this sheet that Ben Krillin has very nicely made for us in such quick time, and that should be a process. And on that note, I don't really want to talk about what the ideal or the popular chip strategy is going to be, because this is a time for people to break down thoughts in their head. So that's where I am. Anything
Absolutely.
to add?
No, I think you summed it up perfectly. I think people need to look at their team. They need to look at what they need to do this week. The big week is next week anyway. The midweek of next week is the big week. And then you need to completely sort of have a plan. It doesn't need to be a final plan. It needs to be that this is the direction I'm taking and I will change if X and Y happens. And I think that's where we are at the moment as well. All sort of the thinking that has changed is this new 29. We always knew 29 is going to be a big double. So nothing much has changed except for small things like City not having a double or Liverpool having a difficult double. So just soak in the information.
Yep. And on that note, we will leave you to go watch the Liverpool-Madrid game. Thank you so much, Pras, for joining us on such short notice. And I'm sure we'll see a lot more of you on the FPL Wire. When's the next episode of the Burning Questions coming?
It's tomorrow, and we had basically a very light agenda. And I think we're basically going to talk about Liverpool as well, and do a little bit of deep dive after today's game.
All right.
Tips and stuff will all be tomorrow, next week.
All right.
Thank you for having me. My favorite podcast. So thanks again for having me on.
Cheers. And that's it, guys. Make sure you're hitting the like and subscribe button. And if you like our work, please share it on whatever platform you're on. We really, really appreciate it. That's it. See you guys and enjoy the game.
Thank you.